What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with Michael Krizo, as he finally got his shoulder surgery done. The one that forced him to sit out of this year's competition season entirely, after only doing just one show, which was the Emperor Classic Spain back in June. So this took him more than 2 months to get it done, because the Emperor Classic Spain, that was in the middle of June. So as per the initial report, the surgery was a success, and there is gonna be at least a few weeks of total rest. So no more touching the weights for Michael Krizo for at least a few more weeks. And this is gonna be the hardest thing for him that is gonna have to go through. Because we all know the man absolutely loves to train, and he loves to look a certain way. But that is the beauty of having muscle memory. He is gonna be back to his original trademark size with only a few weeks of getting back into training. And this phase does provide him with an opportunity to detox, to clean out his system, refresh all his receptors, and come back better than ever the next time he steps on stage. So just for the record, Krizo has been totally off everything that gear the PEDs since this year's Emperor Classic Spain. And that was a smart choice by him to get off everything as soon as possible, as soon as he was done with this year's competition season. So the maximum that he would have been running during this whole time, that would have been some sort of TRT, and nothing more than that. So the biggest announcement was made by Krizo after going through that surgery, while he was responding to a fan's question that he will most probably be making his return to the stage at the Arnold Classic 2025, which is gonna be happening in March next year. Because right now it is absolutely impossible for him to get some rest and recover and get back on the stage at Prague this year, which is scheduled after this year's Mr. Olympia. So the Arnold Classic 2025, that is turning out to be one insane show, and I'm sure many other big names, they are also gonna jump into that show. Next up is the reaction of the mutant Nick Walker to all the predictions that are being made, especially right now at 8 weeks out, in which Nick Walker is either 4th or 5th, or in some really wild cases, he isn't even in the top 5. Now that one came from Milos Sarcev, who actually had him in 6th, behind Barros Tabani. So a guy who has won the Arnold Classic, who has placed top 3 at the Olympia level, beating 2 former Olympians, Big Ramy and Brandon Kerry. Now he would have been certainly offended to hear these views. Now if you guys ask me, I do not agree with that statement, that Nick is gonna be 6th. He isn't the most aesthetic guy out there, but he has other tools, he has other wow factors, like he has the size, he has the freak factor, he has the conditioning, which really makes him stand out in any kind of lineup. And just for a moment, forget about how he looked at this year's New York Pro, because that physique isn't placing top 4, or even top 5 for that matter. Well, we all know Nick Walker is gonna do everything in his power to bring a far better package than what we saw at this year's New York Pro. So just take a look at his physique at the Olympia 2022, which was his last Olympia. The man was hot, he was big, and he was freaky as hell. Now that is something that is going to be dangerous against most of these guys at this year's Mr. Olympia lineup. Now that being said, most of us also do not agree with his blunt statement that he is going to win this year's Mr. Olympia title. Now the question right now is that, I'm sure we all have that question. How does Nick Walker win the Olympia if, let's say, Hadi Choopan comes in even better than what we saw at this year's Arnold, and Derek comes in way better than what we saw at last year's Mr. Olympia? I mean, even if you are a big Nick Walker fan, you must admit that his chances of winning this year's big show, that is heavily dependent on all the top 3 guys coming in off. And we aren't even talking about Andrew Jack here. So what do you guys think of this assessment? And do you guys have Nick Walker in the 3rd? Especially after watching Andrew Jack smash this year's Texas Pro lineup. Because beating guys like Samson Pauda and Andrew Jack, that isn't gonna be easy. Some new pictures of Rubiel Mosquera aka Nexilla surfaced today, hitting some back shots. But are these really recent pictures? So they're most likely taken during his Dubai Pro prep, because these pictures are a repost. And if you look very closely in that back double bicep, that might be Brian Asley in the mirror. And these shots might have been taken during their posing practice on the road to Dubai Pro this year. Because Brian and him, they are not in the same place right now. Now him training legs with Angel Calderon, that is a recent one, because these guys have been training together since Rubiel got to Spain. Now win or lose, let's just hope that Rubiel actually does Italy Pro, which is happening in less than 18 days time now. So he is one of the biggest attractions in the men's open bodybuilding right now, or in any bodybuilding class for that matter. And his attendance at any event That will make this show a lot more exciting. Plus, as a fan, who doesn't want to see this battle between him and Hunter Labrado? Now the last picture that we saw from Rubiel, when he was posing with Angel Calderon, it did not look like as he has closed that conditioning gap. And Angel Calderon is the one who made it look like as he's the one prepping for a show, rather than Rubiel Mosquera. And that brings us to this real question. Is Rubiel even capable of getting more condition, more separation in his legs, more detail overall, with just a few more weeks of dieting? Or is he one of those guys who's gonna have to diet down over and over again to get more condition? Next up, we have an update of the 5 times Classic Physique champion, Kriz Bumstead, going for his 6th title. So the back shot that he posted must be a little older, because today Kriz was spotted training with his legendary coach and trainer Hani Rambod. And it's great to see him out there training with Hani at 8 weeks out of the show, because normally he gets there at 3 or 4 weeks out. And that just goes to show us how badly he wants this 6th title. And the thing is, this isn't only another title for him. He wants to show the bodybuilding world that he is capable of bringing his all-time best to the stage, even at this stage of his career, even with all the injuries, and also having that additional responsibility of being a parent. And that is also what Kriz expressed in one of his recent YouTube videos, that he wanted to create that balance between his family and his professional bodybuilding. So the question right now is that, is Kriz Bumstead beatable? Well, he left the door open in 2023, and Ramondino still could not take him out, although Ramon was able to close that gap between him and Kriz Bumstead. But at this point, I don't think Kriz Bumstead is gonna give that opportunity to his competition again. So every dominant champion in the history of the sport, they had 1 or maybe 2 years where they missed their mark. For instance, look at Ronnie Coleman. He wasn't as good in 2001 or 2002, and he almost lost the title in 2001. You look at Phil Heath. He wasn't at his best in 2014, especially at the prejudging, but he did not give his competition any chances in the later years. So Kriz Bumstead also knows that he needs to be at his all-time best to defend his title this year, and that is why he's out there training with his coach, Hani Rambod, this far out of the show. Next up, we have a 7.5 weeks out physique update of John Jewett. So ever since John switched to the men's open bodybuilding, it has been a continuous upward trajectory for him, especially in terms of progress that he has made, and how freakishly lean he has been able to stay during this whole time. So I have to say, at 7.5 weeks out of this year's Miss Olympia, he must be one of the most ready guy in the men's open class. And to think this is him weighing 239 pounds, and he had to go down to 212 up until last year. That is just insane, that how he was able to make that weight cutoff. Well, it is really great that we have seen another successful transition from the 212 to the men's open. And John wants to make a big statement at his Olympia debut, because even though he has done the Olympia before, but that was in the 212. So he made his men's open debut last year at the Legion Sports, but he has grown a lot, especially in this time span. So getting to the men's open Olympia, and that too in your first year as a men's open competitor, that is a huge accomplishment, because I can name so many guys who are actually extremely good, like Tim Bodisham, Beef Stew, and even a guy like Muhammad Foda, who had to work for years and years before they finally got their first pro win. And Beef Stew and Tim Bodisham are still looking for that. So John's conditioning right now looks absolutely spectacular for this far out of the show, and it will be really fun to see him on the stage against the big boys. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.